This video is about why I do not believe in gods. Now, this is more a statement of position than a grand philosophical argument. I don't claim that my opinion is especially original, but I just want to state my position so you'll understand what it is. I do not believe in the existence of gods. I'm aware of the possibility of gods, but I've not seen any reliable evidence that would prove to me that gods exist. And that's saying a lot considering how much I've seen. I have seen miracles. I've seen the movement of the Holy Spirit. I've spoken in tongues, and I've had messages in tongues interpreted by church leaders. I've had visions that I believed were given to me by God. I've seen people slain in the Spirit. I've seen whole stadiums full of people moved by some mysterious invisible power. And I've felt the power of the Lord inside me, and I had an unquestioning faith in my own salvation. Now, you can take this a couple different ways. You can say that my experiences were genuine, but for some reason I'm just running away from something that I know to be true. I'm a backslid Christian, as we used to call them. Or you could say that that I was just faking all of it, and I've never been a real Christian, and if I would just have a real religious experience, and I really felt the power of the Lord in me, I felt the presence of Jesus, then I would be convinced. Well, since you can't share my experiences, you'll never know if my experiences were real or not, so you're just going to have to take my word for it. My spiritual experiences felt very real at the time, yet now I don't really think that much of them. Well, how could this be? Well, for each of those experiences, I was able to find a non-spiritual explanation that made more sense. I can describe the transformation kind of like a kid who sees what he thinks is a ghost, but then when he goes back and checks, he finds out that it's only a shadow. No matter how convincing the initial belief was, if a second look gives the real answer, then you have to discard the original conclusion. This reassessment of my experiences didn't eliminate the possibility of gods in my mind. It just meant that I could not personally attest that gods actually exist. As I traveled this new path of experience and learning, I learned a few things. I learned about some concepts that function better than faith in determining the truth and detecting falsehood. And these concepts work together to create a framework by which I could better understand the world, and that I could avoid being deceived by specious claims. There's logic, of course, and then there's empiricism, which allows logic to be brought to bear on verifiable facts. There's also the scientific method, which is a powerful tool for determining if something really exists or not. Not only has science discarded some things that we mistakenly thought were real at one time, it's also shown us features of the universe that no religion ever dreamed about. There are some other tools as well. There's Occam's razor. There are the formal and informal logical fallacies that help me spot problems in positive claims. And I also have this rule of thumb, the oft-quoted maxim of Carl Sagan, that extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. Ordinary claims can be accepted with minimal evidence. If you tell me that your car is red, I'll probably believe you, even if I've never actually seen your car. But if you tell me that your car is red and it's a spaceship, that would require some extraordinary evidence before I believe it. And there is an addendum to Carl Sagan's little quote, and that would be one from Christopher Hitchens, which is, that which can be asserted without evidence can also be dismissed without evidence. And that brings us back to gods. The evidence we normally see when people are trying to convince us that their gods exist is pretty flimsy. Miracles, epiphanies, visions, life-changing experiences and events. Once you understand more about how the human mind works, those are a lot less impressive. And their holy books usually aren't any help. They have errors and contradictions. The Bible is internally inconsistent. It doesn't stand up to logical argument. And of course, modern Christians have lots of ways of explaining these biblical contradictions. And some of those explanations are really quite creative. But all of the errors in the Bible can be much more easily explained by accepting the fact that it was a book written by a lot of different people who, for the most part, just didn't know what they were talking about. This whole process of fixing the contradictions in the Bible so it will line up with some religious doctrine, it just really isn't necessary. Since I don't see any evidence for the existence of gods, I just don't believe. I also don't believe in unicorns or perpetual motion machines or psychic powers or ghosts. Nor do I feel particularly deprived by my lack of belief. I mean, the process by which I test claims has opened up a much larger and more wondrous universe to me. I would gladly accept that gods could fit into that universe, but that's an extraordinary claim, and so it's going to take some extraordinary evidence. I've been asked what kind of evidence it would take for me to believe in gods, and well, that's really not up to me. If you have the evidence, bring it, and I'll interrogate it just like I would with any other positive claim. I can tell you, though, that the evidence would have to hold up to scrutiny. It would have to be testable and repeatable in a controlled environment that would prevent contamination or cheating. It would have to stand up to the peer review process. It would have to add something to our knowledge of the universe. And the proof would have to be conclusive. Merely holding something as unproven by science doesn't necessarily mean that religion explains it any better. But for Christians, though, this would just be the first step. Once you were able to prove that a God existed, then you'd have to prove that it's your God, and that your doctrine correctly describes your God's will. You'd have to do that before I would even consider converting. And even then, conversion is not necessarily a no-brainer. So that's why I don't believe. And if you think you have the evidence that it would take to convince me, well, bring it. But I'd really rather spend my time examining ideas that have a greater possibility of being true. It's a big universe, and I still have a lot to learn. And I can hardly waste my time on claims that are most likely false. Thanks for watching. Check out the website at grindstonejournal.com and watch for more videos.